This is the Future Talent Podcast, a future-focused podcast series showing the channels that enterprise can engage today to empower their current employees and future-proof the talent pipeline of tomorrow. This series is brought to you by Technological University Dublin's Enterprise Academy. We create learning solutions to enable your business success. Want to find out how we can support your learning and development needs? Visit www.tudublin.ie/enterprise-academy to book in a call with our team.
Hello and welcome to the Future Talent Podcast. I hope you are enjoying the series so far and getting good insights into the opportunities university and enterprise engagement offer when both organisations collaborate together. Certainly, this episode is no exception. Today, you will hear how one academic, with her ear to the ground around the growth of Ireland's brewing and distilling industry, was afforded the opportunity to conduct research through the HEA-funded Convene project to explore how academia could support this booming sector. While we may often have an informed hunch or intuition that there might be a need for a new education programme or offering, Dr. Ciara Walsh talks through the rigorous research process she followed, together with industry-informed knowledge and data, to move a hunch to a well-informed, data-driven decision to launch a postgraduate certificate in brewing and distilling. In this episode, Ciara is also joined by a recent graduate of the new programme, Stuart McNamara, to share his entrepreneurial story. And Stuart is indeed an entertaining storyteller. He describes himself as a soldier, sailor and whisky maker, and his story demonstrates how he has brought these skills forward into his new project, Portmagee Whisky Distillery and Tourist Exhibition Centre, off the coast of the Skelligs in County Kerry. As I've said, this episode perfectly captures the benefits industry and entrepreneurs can take from engaging with universities, their research capabilities and their theoretical rigour, but equally how universities continue to remain relevant and useful to economies and society by engaging with industry to ensure they're designing learning programmes that actually meet industry needs.
I'm Ciara Walsh and I'm a Senior Talent Development Partner with the Enterprise Academy. And today I'm going to go through an industry academic engagement study of the brewing and distilling sector. So while this is based in the drinks sector, I hope you'll see the opportunities to transpose this or similar models into different sectors to potentially meet other skills demands. So I completed this as part of a Convene Fellowship in spring 2022 before joining the Enterprise Academy in the role that I'm in today. So just to give you some background on brewing and distilling in Ireland, Irish whiskey was distilled back as far as the 6th century, whereas brewing in Ireland is believed to go back to the Bronze and to early Iron Ages. So we have a long history of brewing and distilling in Ireland. St. Patrick was reported to have his own brewery, and St. Bridget famously changed water into beer. As you can see in the picture, we don't have her here today, but this is a picture, nice picture, St. Bridget. But certainly brewing and distilling was a staple in the diet of many for centuries, quite often as an alternative to potentially contaminated drinking water, but certainly it was a staple. And brewed and distilled beverages are very much associated with Irish history, culture, and folklore. So the current landscape in modern Ireland. Ireland is very much associated with, or it has a reputation for, high-quality alcoholic beverages, such as whiskey and stout. And as a result, many iconic Irish drinks brands. So if you consider this in light of the global rising interest in craft or specialty beers, Irish whiskey having new markets across the world, which I'm sure Stuart will tell us about in a minute, it's really put Irish brewers and distillers in a very desirable position in the international marketplace. So to put it another way, if we go back to 2008, we had 15 breweries in Ireland and 4 distilleries. If we go a decade later, 2018, we had 93 breweries and 45 distilleries. So I think you'll agree there's been some really rapid growth in this sector in recent times. And I go so far as to say that the drinks sector is a significant contributor to the Irish economy. It feeds into 140 markets. It's worth greater than 2.6 billion. It sustains 92,000 jobs. More recent growth in the last 4 years. Irish whiskey alone has reached the €1 billion export mark in January 2023. So this industry, as a whole, is booming. So if you woke up in the morning and you wanted to be part of that success story, you wanted to be a brewer or a distiller, where do you go for upskilling, reskilling? Where do you go for qualifications? What are your options? Well, certainly this is something I did look at as part of my own Convene Fellowship. And in the spring of 2022, there was 4 programs in Ireland. So we had 2 certificates, a level 5, a level 6, a level 8 in Carlow, South East Technological University, and we had our own level 8 here in TU Dublin. So we had the BSc in Food Innovation, whereby you can select a food stream or a brewing and distilling stream to specialise for the industry. And Dr. Graham O'Neill, the course chair, is here if anyone wants to talk about brewing and distilling on this programme. But certainly we had 4 programmes in Ireland nationally to support the sector at this time. And that's not to negate the very high quality online provision in this area. So we have 2 British organisations, the Institute of Brewing and Distilling and the Wine and Spirits Educational Trust. So they're a bit like gold standards in the industry, for which you can do online qualifications. But if you wanted the online theoretical component with the practical component, so you wanted the techniques to be a brewer and distiller, or if you wanted a qualification, a postgraduate qualification from a 3rd level institute in Ireland, where did you go? Well, many of our aspiring brewers and distillers were travelling to Scotland, to Heriot-Watt, who have a long history of teaching brewing and distilling. So a master's in brewing and distilling, a master's in brewing and distilling, and entrepreneurship. So certainly in TU Dublin, we thought there was opportunities to develop postgraduate programmes or more formal accredited training in brewing and distilling in this space. So to that end, I completed an industry academic engagement study of the sector. And this consisted of industry surveys and also stakeholder interviews. So industry surveys give you that quantitative data, so they give you your correlations, patterns, and trends. If you couple that with stakeholder interviews, you get the qualitative data. So that gives you context for your data. And also gives you a deeper understanding of the reasoning, the insights, the perspectives of your stakeholders. The developed surveys were sent to all the companies in Ireland, brewing and distilling companies, and we got 40 back. And the stakeholder interviews were of micro, macro companies, regulators, consultants, and umbrella organisations representing the stakeholders. So to try and get that overall view of many different stakeholders. And certainly we wanted that information to inform the development of stackable postgraduate programmes. Stackable because they're more preferential for an industry learner, flexible, agile, self-paced learning. But certainly this incremental approach does allow the learner to customise their own learning journey. Industry academic engagement was a priority for us. And really because it's based on the premise that both partners have mutual strengths, which can be harnessed for mutual benefit, whereby industry have those real-life scenarios, they have those practical insights, and academia have theoretical knowledge, they have research capabilities and academic rigour. And certainly together we can tackle more complex problems than we can individually. And I think the COVID-19 vaccines are certainly a case in point on this, but in partnership we can find more innovative solutions. And in that sense, we can drive technological advancement. There's many, many advantages to bridging this gap. But certainly from an academic perspective, it does allow us to develop programs that are relevant, up-to-date, comprehensive, ensure that we're meeting a real skills need, which is important for our graduates to find employment and to future-proof them. So I'm not going to go into any great detail about the findings of this study, but just to give you a few highlights or a few questions that we asked. This study is currently accepted for publication in the Irish Journal of Academic Practice, so will soon be freely available online. So one of the questions we asked the participants of our survey was, do you think anyone in your company might be interested in completing a postgraduate diploma in brewing and distilling or a master's in brewing and distilling? So we got some modestly encouraging interest in that. We got 63% for their PG Dip, and we got a 60% for our MSc. The obstacles to upskilling was an interesting one, and I think it reflects a lot of what's been discussed today. 1 in 2 said time was the biggest obstacle to training. And I think this puts in very sharp focus that need for that agile, flexible, customised pathways to learning. 1 in 5 said cost, and we were certainly looking at funding mechanisms in the design of these programmes, and another 1 in 5 said lack, or certainly perceived lack, of suitable programmes for upskilling. I think you'll notice that 96% did not say their own personal lack of interest was an obstacle to upskilling in this area. So I thought that was interesting. We had lots of questions around methods of delivery. I've just included one. And here you can see online recorded with laboratory sessions on site was preferable, and also that hybrid approach with laboratory sessions on site again. So these are preferred to completely online or completely on site in the traditional sense. Again, not to get bogged down in a busy slide, but this, for example, is some of the information we would have gathered for, say, our postgraduate diploma in brewing and distilling. So we have information there on competencies. So priority demonstrable, competencies being demonstrable knowledge, so these would be the priority areas which can inform curriculum. And similarly, knowledge, which is our theoretical and practical understanding of an area. In addition to that, we have our transferable skills, which are a little bit controversial today, our soft skills. So these we could look at to see how we could cultivate them in our assessment strategy. The survey findings were very much in agreement with the stakeholder interviews, but the interviews did, of course, give us more insights and more in-depth information. So the results. Well, we just finished the first year of our first postgraduate certificate in brewing and distilling. So this ran from September 2022 to May 2023. And this is in the School of Food Science and Environmental Health. Dr. Julie Dunn, head of school here today, head of discipline, Dr. Gemma Kinsella, who were obviously key players in this. And this programme received Springboard funding, which was fantastic. And I suppose the positives or the advantages of having that Springboard funding is it certainly does subsidise the fee for the learner, which is a great start to the programme. Delighted to say also we have Springboard funding for September of this year. So 16 places, part-time programme, many industry learners, and it was very heavily oversubscribed. So I think that's indicative of a pronounced need in the sector for more opportunities for formal qualifications. When I say oversubscribed, I really mean that it filled quickly. We had a reserve list, and our expression of interest for this year's programme was about 60 on Google Forms. We've just finished designing the postgraduate diploma in brewing and distilling, and this is really quite hot off the presses because it was just validated yesterday. So a lot of hard work in food science, environmental health, and this is also in collaboration with the School of Culinary Arts and Food Technology. Also, really good news, we have been funded for 28 places under the Human Capital Initiative, the recent HCI call. So this is obviously a fantastic start for this programme too. So just to give you a look at it, these 28 places consist of 14 full-time, where a learner will complete the full complement, and also they consist of, as you can see there, an add-on programme for the additional modules. So that anyone who's completed the PG Cert or equivalent can also keep going and continue their journey to complete a postgraduate diploma. Maybe in the future we will have another 30 ECTSs for an MSc, who knows. So just to finish up, historically we learned through on-the-job training in brewing and distilling, and this was supplemented by online training to some degree. And I think having these accredited programmes does give the learners the opportunity to develop a more comprehensive skill set, whereby they learn the scientific knowledge that underpins brewing and distilling, the practical components, and in addition to that, business, entrepreneurship, new product development. And this can be applied in a real-life setting if you're an industry learner, or on placement if you're new to the sector. It does also help to build those peer and collaborative networks and encourages lifelong learning, which we know from earlier has individual, societal and economic benefits. And we hope that it does enhance the career prospects of our learners and in turn their mobility within the sector. But certainly we do hope we have helped this growing sector to continue thriving. In truth, if we want to ask the advantages for a learner, we need to ask a learner. So I'm delighted to introduce you to Stuart McNamara. He's just completed the postgraduate certificate in brewing and distilling. He describes himself as a soldier, sailor, whiskey maker. He's a whiskey aficionado and blogger, co-founder of Portmagee Whiskey and Wexbury Spirits, and the recent winner of the Enterprise Academy Entrepreneurship Award. Thank you, Stuart.
Okay, I suppose I'm director of Portmagee Whiskey, and I suppose what I want to do, I was a student, on, as Ciara said, on the very first, the inaugural postgrad course in brewing and distilling. So I suppose what I want to do is tell you about my relevant professional background, my experience as an entrepreneur and in working on entrepreneurial leadership, in other words, harnessing entrepreneurial energy within large organizations, my previous experience of working with colleges. And then I'll kind of share my experience briefly on this course and why I think it's the bee's knees. So as Ciara said, I describe myself on my LinkedIn profile as soldier, sailor, whiskey maker. Soldier was my profession for over 35 years. I took early retirement there about 3 or 4 years ago. Sailor was my sport, and I became one of the national trainers of the Irish Sailing Association. And back when the NFQ, I can never remember, the big wheel was brought in, I was involved in bringing our sport courses, all our boat training courses, which were also best practice in industry for rescue agencies, into the academic framework. Now, it was at the VEC level, and then we moved it into the big wheel. So I had worked there, and then as a military officer, my speciality really was in telecommunications, which then became IT and data and software, and then became cyber. So I would have finished up as kind of head of the commanding officer of the unit responsible for the delivery of enterprise telecom services and cyber defence for the Irish Defence Forces. Now, prior to that, I'd also been head of the School of Military Communications. And while I was there, we worked with Carlo IT to develop primary degree programs and master's degree programs. So I learned all about course descriptors and that. So when Ciara came along to ask me I was one of many people that she approached, looking for advice on the brewing and distilling side of things. I had some sort of background of working, between large organizations and with academia. The whiskey side, whiskey was my hobby. I had a mixed background. My mum was one of the first entrepreneurs in the 70s. My dad was an electronic engineer in the 70s, 60s and 70s. And I grew up with this wonderful appreciation of art and science and heritage and culture and engineering. And it was an adventure, I suppose, and it was a natural progression for me to go into the Defence Forces. So I'm involved now since I retired, following my dream. I have a small vodka company with a young vodkapreneur called Mark Kavanagh down in Wexford. And what we do is we take Wexford strawberries and we put them into Irish vodka. It won kind of third best startup in the Startup Awards last year. And we're on the FoodWorks programme with Bord Bia this year. Portmagee was really the dream. Portmagee down in Kerry, it's where you get the boat out to the Skelligs, where Star Wars was filmed. And myself and 2 friends set up Portmagee Whisky about 4 or 5 years ago with 5,000 each, with a dream of building a whisky brand and a whisky distillery and a Spirit of the Sea visitor centre that reflected the smuggling heritage of our village for the last 300 years. So today we have 3 whiskies, including Ireland's only 9-year-old whisky. If you thought 3 was good, 3 times 3 is always better. So we're exporting to the States and we're exporting to Europe. And we got good news there a few weeks ago. Whiskey Advocate magazine, which is the leading whiskey magazine in America, rated us as an exceptional whiskey. So we're up there with the big guys, so we're doing something right. But we're not just a whiskey company. We're a tourism company. We're a hospitality company. We're a technology company. You can see the geodesic domes there. What we've done is we've created these geodesic domes and we've installed augmented reality inside. We've digitized the entire Skellig coast. And then we have a seine boat inside, which is a boat that goes back 400 years in Portmagee. And we've got that seine boat recognised as part of Ireland's intangible heritage with the Irish government. So we're a cultural, historic company. And we developed our own augmented reality technology inside. So now when you go in and you sit in the boat, if you can't go to the Skelligs if the weather's bad, you come up to us, you sit in the boat, the lights go down, and we can take you on an infinite number of digital voyages around the Skellig coast. And at the same time tell you yarns about smuggling and piracy. So I'll come to that point later that we're not just a whiskey company when we come to talk to TU Dublin. We're developing a new distillery at the moment. If there are any angel investors or VC people, talk to me later, please. We're only looking 3 or 4 million. But part of our distillery design, you can see there's the concept. Sustainability is the heart of it. We planted 3,500 trees about 3 years ago. Okay? You can see the solar PV farm on top of the roof of the warehouse. We're building a microgeneration wind plant there at the moment to power the existing visitor centre. So really, I suppose, again, I said, just keep that in mind that we're not just a whiskey company. My own academic background with a very small I suppose, was I did a master's degree on entrepreneurial leadership about 20 years ago. And then I kind of came up with this model myself, and forgive me if before ChatGPT I came up with this, but if somebody else came up with it before me and I didn't know about it. I've always thought there were 4 pillars in entrepreneurial leadership in an organization. The first is you have to create a culture, an environment where the entrepreneurs feel welcome, they feel safe, they feel encouraged, they feel empowered. The next thing you have to do is you have to create a process. Now, as entrepreneurs, we don't like process. We like to make it up, we like to wing it. We're iterative people by nature. So we have to learn then to come into that kind of process. So that brings me on to the next 2 stages. You have to train the entrepreneurs or educate them how to work within an academic environment. And you have to train the champions, be it their boss in a big organization like Aer Lingus or the Defence Forces, or be it the people in academia, how to manage these temperamental people. For those of us like me who think in pictures, this is the model I came up with. So you can see there's the culture environment in the green circle. The process is in the blue circle. But what's very important is that the entrepreneur and the champion, be it the academia or be it their boss, is in the center. So from the very start of the process, the entrepreneur is in the very center of the process. Normally when we go, and this was talked about earlier, if I go to a college, and I've been to colleges before with different projects, I have a technology background as well. I've gone looking for innovation vouchers, or I've gone looking for, assistance in developing some piece of software or some piece of IP. And I don't know who to go to. I don't know what college to go to. I don't know who to go to. When I do go to somebody, I get kind of, they're busy, send us in a letter, And I may get through banging the head off the wall. I have to get through this gate and that gate. Then I get to the person I want, is the yellow sticker there in the middle. But then even they have to go through gates. I might get, as somebody said earlier, you meet somebody, I think this lady down here said, you meet somebody, you hang on to them, but you might meet someone in the science department. But as I said, we're interested in business, tourism, culture, hospitality, history. And when I want to move on to another school, I have to reinvent the thing and start all over again. So that's the traditional model, and it works with Enterprise Ireland, it works with Leo, it works with all of these, and it's very frustrating when you're an entrepreneur. So this is the model I've adapted from my master's model 20 years ago, which is that if we adapt that model for academic enterprise or entrepreneurship, engagement or partnership, we put the distillery and the academic, in other words, this is Ciara and myself, in the center of that process, which is an organized process. I go in and there is a way of doing things, and somebody would show me how to do it and how to get the best out of this college. Okay? But in the environment are the schools of science, engineering, hospitality, culture, tourism, whatever. And those can be brought into the center circle as and when required. So I'm starting here with Ciara and her team, and we're working on brewing and distilling. But I'd love to talk to Alex and his team about augmented reality that we're working on. So hopefully when I'm now in this process, as I am now, that we can invite Alex and his people into the dark blue circle. So I hope the model kind of makes sense, and I'm not kind of, everybody's there with blank faces. But I think that's the future. It's a single point of contact, one phone a friend I can go to in the college. I'm welcomed in. There is a welcoming culture and environment. There is a process. I have to learn it. Someone will show me how to use it, and I have to respect that. So my experience then on the actual course, it's the first postgraduate course. It's a level 9 runway for future study. The exam results were out. I deliberately didn't look at them before I spoke today, just in case. It coloured what I was about to say. But I'll look at them tomorrow. But hopefully if I did okay, I'll be back for this diploma. And, I'd love to go on and do the masters as well, because then I'd be a master distiller. I don't think so, but... So it's designed with strong enterprise input for busy industry professionals like me. So it's flexi time, I can work from home, or I've attended a few lectures from the States where I was on marketing trips. The other thing is that it's very accessible, okay? We're a small company, and this course would typically be €3,000 or so. It's €300 with Springboard. That makes a huge difference. And when I look at my classmates, a lot of them funded themselves on the course. And a lot of them didn't come from a science or technology background. They came from tourism, whiskey tourism, or whiskey marketing, or whiskey sales. But all of us were able to come in with all of our years of experience. And as somebody said earlier, we were able to bounce off each other. And the other thing that happened was that people were able to come into academia who mightn't have been in academia before. Some people mightn't have had the chance to go to college. For some people, they mightn't have had the scientific background to get in, and they don't want to go off and do a primary degree in science and start again, okay? So it really has been accessible, and it has been purpose-built for us with our input in the industry. It's fantastic. The benefits for my own company and myself, we've already saved 100,000 in the design of our new distillery. I'm the guy designing the distillery, based on my 20 years of whiskey experience and just being interested in whiskey. But by talking to a classmate and talking to one of the lecturers, we've come up with, introduced a piece of technology into the specification, which is saving us 100 grand. But that 100 grand will save us multiples of hundreds of grand every year, because it brings efficiency to the new place. It gives us confidence, it gives us networking in the industry, as I said, and opportunities for future research and development. And my payback here is that if I do meet an angel investor this evening, we've promised that we will become Ireland's first teaching distillery. In other words, we will close our distillery and bring a college like this down for a week. Come in, play with the gear. Tell us what you think. That's the least we can do. That's the ambition anyway. One of the fun things I managed to do here, and this is the second last slide, or the thank you, is I've made things up as I went along, even as a military officer. I was known for that, just getting it done and maybe sorting the paperwork later, okay? But I was the right guy to have when you needed, when the chips were down. I think I'd be recognised for that. And it's the same when I've designed several whiskies over the last 5 or 6 years and several other products. But this is the first time I took it from ideation right through to commercialisation by the book. And I think one of our speakers today from Microsoft was a student like myself on a similar journey and said the same thing, I lecture in entrepreneurship as well. I know all about Business Canvas, but for him it was Business Canvas. For me, it was new product development process with Dr. Rena Barry-Ryan. So what we managed to do was actually create this whiskey from an idea and mature it in ash wood. It's the first whiskey ever aged in ash, which is what Hurleys are made for. Positanta, all produced here in TU Dublin. So not bad for 1 year, the value that I've got out of this course. So that's it. Thank you very much.
I really enjoyed this session at the Future Talent Forum back in June this year. I love hearing graduate stories, particularly entrepreneurial stories, of how learners took academic theories and concepts and brought them to life by applying them to their new ventures and real-world business processes. I do hope Stuart finds that venture capitalist and brings his exhibition centre to the next level. It sounds fantastic, and certainly I, for one, would like to visit it in the future. Stuart also illustrated exactly what TU Dublin's Enterprise Academy offers: a single point of contact in the university to bring enterprise to the table with their needs, questions and ideas. The Enterprise Academy team will listen and co-create solutions, working across all schools and subject matter to meet that emerging industry learning need. It is great to hear an industry partner such as Stuart articulate the benefits to this model. And if this process sounds like something your organisation could benefit from, please do reach out to TU Dublin's Enterprise Academy team. You will find our contact details in the show notes or on our website www.tudublin.ie/enterprise-academy. Thank you for tuning in to the Future Talent Podcast.